First contact and betrayal. The Nexarian ship emerged from the darkness of space like a crystal cathedral catching starlight, its translucent hull refracting the sun's rays in prismatic patterns across Earth's atmosphere. Global leaders watched in awe as the vessel, nearly 3 kilometers in length, settled into geosynchronous orbit above the United Nations headquarters in New York. Within hours, every screen on Earth broadcast the same message: "We come seeking alliance." Commander Sarah Chen stood at attention in the UN General Assembly Hall, her dress uniform crisp despite the sweltering heat of too many bodies packed into too small a space. As Earth's newly appointed first contact representative, she led the team tasked with greeting humanity's first alien visitors. The air crackled with tension and excitement as 3 Nexarian representatives materialized on the stage. They were beautiful in an unsettling way. Tall, willowy figures with opalescent skin that seemed to shift colors with each movement, and eyes like liquid mercury. The lead representative, who called himself Ambassador Excel, moved with fluid grace as he approached the podium. "People of Earth," his voice resonated perfectly in English, though his mouth moved in patterns that didn't match the words. "We have watched your species grow, adapt, and overcome countless challenges. Your potential has drawn us across the stars. We offer you membership in the Galactic Concordat, a fellowship of advanced civilizations sharing knowledge and resources for mutual benefit." Sarah noticed something in Cell's mercury eyes when he spoke of Earth's potential, a gleam that reminded her of prospectors evaluating mineral-rich land. She'd seen that look before, during her time negotiating with mining corporations in the Amazon. But she kept her doubts hidden behind a diplomatic smile as Earth's leaders eagerly signed preliminary agreements. The next 3 months passed in a whirlwind of cultural exchange and technological sharing. The Nexarians offered solutions to climate change, renewable energy systems, and medical advances that seemed nothing short of miraculous. They were particularly interested in human biology, requesting thousands of tissue samples for what they called compatibility testing. Dr. James Okonjo, Sarah's chief medical officer, brought her the first warning signs. "The cellular degradation in these samples isn't natural," he explained late one night in his lab. "They're not studying our biology. They're testing weapons." Before Sarah could act on this information, the Nexarians struck. Their crystal ship shattered into thousands of smaller vessels that rained down over Earth's major cities. But instead of bombs or energy weapons, they released clouds of shimmering particles that drifted down like lethal snow. Nanophages, Xel's voice boomed across all communication channels. Designed to harvest the unique properties of human cellular structure while eliminating resistance. "Your species has something we need, genetic adaptability unlike anything we've seen in the galaxy. We prefer willing donors, but we will take what we require." The particles descended on Tokyo first. Sarah watched in horror through video feeds as they engulfed the city, and did absolutely nothing. People walked through the clouds unharmed, the nanophages falling inert around them like glitter. In the ensuing chaos, Dr. Okonjo made a stunning discovery. The background radiation from Earth's core, combined with centuries of low-level exposure to everything from cosmic rays to artificial electromagnetic fields, it's created a kind of biological static charge in human cells. Their nanophages can't get a grip on our cellular structure. The Nexarians launched more attacks. Biological agents, energy weapons, even attempts at psychological warfare. But each weapon seemed to fail in unique and unexpected ways. Humans shrugged off pathogens that should have liquidated their organs. Energy beams meant to disrupt neural patterns instead gave people temporary synesthesia. They reported tasting colors and smelling sounds for a few hours before returning to normal. Sarah found herself smiling as she coordinated Earth's response from the underground command center. The Nexarians had made a crucial mistake. They had noticed humanity's adaptability, but hadn't understood its source. They saw it as something to be harvested, never realizing it was an ongoing process, one that had prepared humanity for threats they couldn't even imagine. Ambassador Excel, She broadcast on all frequencies. "I believe it's time to renegotiate the terms of our relationship. And this time, we'll be the ones setting the conditions." The Nexarians' response was immediate and desperate. They launched their entire arsenal at once, the sky filled with weapons designed to end civilizations. Humanity looked up, not in fear, but in anticipation of what they might learn from each new failed attempt to destroy them. The war had begun, but unlike any war in human history, this one would be won not through destruction, but through humanity's unprecedented ability to adapt, survive, and grow stronger with each attack. The Nexarians had wanted to harvest humanity's potential. Instead, they had become the catalyst for its next great evolutionary leap. As Sarah watched the ineffective light show in the sky above New York, she couldn't help but wonder if this was just the beginning. What other potential lay dormant in human DNA, waiting for the right moment to emerge? The Nexarians had made one thing clear. Humanity was far more remarkable than anyone, even humans themselves, had realized. The real question now wasn't whether Earth would survive this invasion, but what humanity would become in the process of defending itself. As emergency reports flooded in from around the globe, one thing became increasingly clear. They were about to find out. The unexpected resistance. In the depths of the CDC's highest security lab, Dr. James Okonjo stared at his microscope display in fascination. On the screen, human cells weren't just resisting the Nexarian nanophages. They were adapting to use them. The cellular walls had developed a way to absorb the alien technology, breaking it down into components that reinforced their own structure. "Commander Chen needs to see this," he muttered, reaching for his secure phone. The discovery would change everything about how they approached the ongoing conflict. Above the Earth, the Nexarian fleet had doubled in size. Their crystalline ships now formed a glittering web across the sky, casting strange shadows over the planet below. But their beautiful appearance belied their increasing desperation. 3 weeks into what should have been a simple harvesting operation, they had failed to capture a single viable human specimen. Sarah Chen stood in the newly established Global Defense Command Center, carved deep into the Rocky Mountains. Holographic displays showed the status of major cities worldwide. Despite the Nexarians' continued attacks, human casualty rates remained remarkably low. Instead of mass devastation, they were seeing something unprecedented: widespread human enhancement. "The latest reports from Mumbai are in," her tactical officer announced. "The energy weapons the Nexarians used last week. Our people are starting to generate similar effects naturally. We've got civilians producing electromagnetic pulses when under stress." Sarah nodded, unsurprised. Similar reports had been coming in from around the globe. In Rio, children were developing chromatic skin changes similar to Nexarian camouflage. In Lagos, entire neighborhoods had become naturally resistant to the aliens' telepathic interference attempts. Her secure phone buzzed. "James Okonjo's ID. "Tell me you've got something," she answered. "Better than something," his voice crackled with excitement. "I think I've figured out why we're not just surviving their attacks. We're evolving from them. It's our junked DNA." "Our what?" "The non-coding DNA sequences we've always assumed were leftover evolutionary garbage. They're not garbage at all. They're more like dormant programming. Every time the Nexarians hit us with a new weapon, these sequences activate and help us adapt. It's like we were designed to do this." Sarah's mind raced with the implications. Designed by whom? "That's the real question, isn't it?" James replied. "But here's something even more interesting. The adaptations aren't random. They're following a pattern, like our DNA is working from a blueprint we didn't know existed." Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert. On the main screen, the Nexarian ships were moving into a new formation. Sarah recognized it from their tactical briefings. They were preparing for a synchronized strike. "They're getting desperate," she observed. "They know they're running out of options." The attack, when it came, was unlike anything before. The Nexarian ships focused their energy into a single massive beam that struck the Earth's atmosphere like a spear of light. The intended effect was to disrupt the planet's electromagnetic field, theoretically disrupting the human nervous system in the process. Instead, something remarkable happened. As the beam hit the atmosphere, aurora-like lights spread across the sky worldwide. People stepped out of their shelters to watch in awe as curtains of color danced overhead. Then, one by one, they began to feel it. A heightened awareness, a sense of connection not just to each other, but to the energy field itself. In the command center, Sarah gasped as her consciousness expanded. She could feel the presence of others, not just nearby, but across the globe. The Nexarians' attempt to disrupt their nervous systems had instead awakened some dormant capability for connection. James, she managed to speak through the overwhelming sensation. "Are you feeling this? It's remarkable." His voice was filled with wonder. "The dormant sequences, they're all activating at once. It's like this was meant to happen." Reports began flooding in from around the world. People were demonstrating abilities that defied explanation. Not just physical adaptations now, but mental ones. Enhanced intelligence, instant learning, spontaneous understanding of complex systems. It was as if the Nexarians' desperate attack had unlocked the next stage of human evolution. In orbit, the alien fleet began to retreat, their crystalline ships dimming as they pulled away from Earth. But it was too late. Humanity had changed in ways that couldn't be undone. The very weapons meant to subjugate them had instead liberated capabilities they never knew they possessed. Sarah looked at the retreating fleet with new eyes, eyes that could now perceive energy patterns and quantum fluctuations. "They wanted to harvest our potential," she mused. "They never realized they were just the key to unlocking it." As the Nexarian ships disappeared into the depths of space, Earth's population began to grapple with their newfound abilities. But one question remained, growing more urgent with each new manifestation of power. Who had encoded these possibilities into their DNA, and what had they been preparing humanity for? The answer, they would soon discover, was far more extraordinary than anyone could have imagined. Humanity strikes back. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a hastily constructed research facility built inside an extinct underwater volcano, Dr. James Okonjo led a team of the world's brightest minds in studying captured Nexarian technology. The crystalline fragments of their weapons and vehicles responded to human touch in ways that defied their original programming, almost as if they were evolving alongside their human handlers. "Look at this," Dr. Elena Petrova, a quantum physicist from Moscow, called out. Her hands hovered over a shard of Nexarian hull material, and the crystal pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that matched her heartbeat. The crystalline structure isn't just responsive. It's trying to integrate with our own bioelectric field. Around the globe, similar discoveries were being made. The Nexarians' retreat had left behind a treasure trove of advanced technology, and humanity's newly awakened abilities made reverse engineering it remarkably intuitive. People who had never studied engineering were suddenly understanding complex alien systems on an instinctive level. In the command center, now relocated to the underwater facility, Sarah Chen watched as humanity's first reverse-engineered Nexarian vessel took shape. Unlike the original crystalline design, this ship was a hybrid of human innovation and alien technology, its hull seamlessly blending organic and inorganic materials. "The test pilots are ready," her aide reported, though test might be the wrong word. "They're interfacing with the ship's systems like they've been flying them their whole lives." Sarah nodded, unsurprised. Since the global awakening triggered by the Nexarians' final attack, humanity had been demonstrating increasingly sophisticated abilities. It wasn't just physical adaptation anymore. People were developing the deep, almost instinctive understanding of advanced technologies and scientific principles that should have taken decades to master. A priority communication from the lunar outpost interrupted her thoughts. "Commander, we're detecting multiple quantum signatures approaching from the direction of the Kuiper Belt. They're not Nexarian. The energy pattern is completely different." Before Sarah could respond, Dr. Okonjo burst into the command center. his tablet displaying a complex DNA sequence. "I found it," he exclaimed. "The pattern in our dormant DNA. It's not just a blueprint, it's a message. And now that our abilities have awakened, we can finally read it." The message, encoded in the very fabric of human genetics, began to unfold across their enhanced consciousness. It was left by a civilization that called themselves the predecessors, who had seeded countless worlds with life across the galaxy. Earth had been special, an experimental world where they tested their most ambitious genetic programs. "They didn't just give us the potential to adapt," James explained, his voice filled with awe. "They gave us the potential to transcend. Every challenge, every threat we faced was meant to unlock another layer of our capabilities. The Nexarians didn't trigger our evolution by accident. They were an unwitting catalyst for a process that was designed to activate when humanity faced its first major extraterrestrial threat." The quantum signatures from the Kuiper Belt grew stronger. On screens worldwide, a new fleet appeared, ships that made the Nexarian vessels look primitive by comparison. They were neither crystalline nor metallic, but seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, their forms shifting and flowing like liquid reality. But humanity was ready. The abilities awakened by the Nexarian conflict had prepared them for this moment. Around the globe, people instinctively understood what they were seeing: the return of the predecessors themselves, drawn back to Earth by the activation of their long-dormant program. Sarah stepped onto the command deck of humanity's first hybrid vessel, feeling it respond to her presence like an extension of her own consciousness. The ship's systems merged seamlessly with her enhanced awareness, providing her with an understanding of capabilities that would have seemed like magic just months ago. "Launch all vessels," she commanded, her voice carrying not just through communication systems, but through the new quantum-conscious network that connected all of humanity. "It's time to meet our makers, not as subjects or experiments, but as equals." As the hybrid fleet rose from Earth's oceans, deserts, and mountain ranges, humanity faced its next great challenge. But this time, they weren't facing a threat. They were rising to claim their place among the stars, armed with capabilities beyond anything their would-be conquerors had imagined possible. The Nexarians had sought to harvest humanity's potential. Instead, they had helped humanity harvest itself, unlocking abilities that had laid dormant for millions of years. Now, as the predecessors approached, Earth's people prepared not for war, but for a reunion that would reshape their understanding of their own destiny. At the helm of her ship, Sarah smiled. Humanity hadn't just survived or adapted. They had fulfilled the promise encoded in their very DNA. They had become something new, something that even their creators might not have anticipated. The real question was no longer about their past, but about what they would choose to become next. The hidden truth. The predecessors' ships hung in Earth's orbit like shimmering mirages, their quantum state hulls rippling with patterns that seemed to echo the very fabric of space-time. In the underwater command center, Sarah Chen and her team prepared for humanity's first contact with their ancient creators. But something felt different this time. There was no fear, no uncertainty, only a deep sense of recognition. Dr. James Okonjo worked feverishly at his station, correlating data from the genetic message with readings from the approaching fleet. "These ships," he announced, "they're not just vessels. They're living entities, grown rather than built. And their quantum signature, it matches patterns we're now seeing in activated human DNA." The truth began to emerge as humanity's enhanced consciousness interfaced with the predecessors' technology. The ancient civilization hadn't simply seeded Earth with life. They had merged with it. Facing extinction from a universe-wide threat, they had encoded their entire civilization into the basic building blocks of life itself, hiding their legacy in countless species across the galaxy. "We're not their experiments," Alina Petrova realized, her eyes wide with understanding. "We're their children, their successors." The first direct communication from the predecessors confirmed this revelation. It came not as words or images, but as a cascade of genetic memories unlocking within every human mind. They saw the ancient civilization at its height, masters of matter and energy, reshaping worlds and dancing among the stars. They witnessed the approaching doom that had forced them to seed themselves across the galaxy, splitting their consciousness into countless potential forms, waiting for one to achieve the right combination of traits to reawaken their legacy. Sarah stood on the observation deck, watching the quantum ship swirl in complex patterns overhead. "They weren't just waiting for us to evolve," she said softly. "They were waiting for us to become something new. Something even they hadn't been." The genetic memories revealed that humanity had developed along an unexpected path, where other seeded species had manifested specific traits of the predecessors. Humans had developed something unique, the ability to adapt and integrate all of them. The Nexarian attack hadn't just awakened dormant abilities. It had catalyzed a synthesis that the predecessors themselves had never achieved. Deep in the facility's quantum computing lab, Dr. Okonjo made another startling discovery. The predecessors' ships, they're responding to us, but not as separate entities. They're recognizing us as part of themselves, as the next stage of their own evolution. The revelation sparked a global awakening of new capabilities. Humans began to instinctively understand how to grow their own quantum state technology, merging biological and physical laws in ways that transcended traditional science. Cities began to transform as people reshaped their environment with thought alone, creating structures that existed in multiple states simultaneously. But with this understanding came a sobering truth. The threat that had forced the predecessors to seed themselves across the galaxy was still out there, still approaching. The genetic memories showed glimpses of it, a wave of cosmic entropy that devoured everything in its path, breaking down the very laws of physics themselves. This is why they needed us, Sarah realized. Not just to carry their legacy, but to evolve beyond it, to become something capable of facing this threat. In orbit, the predecessors' ships began to change, responding to humanity's awakening consciousness. They weren't just watching humanity's evolution, they were participating in it, merging with Earth's transformed population to create something entirely new. The boundary between human and predecessor technology began to blur as both species moved toward a new state of existence. But even as humanity embraced its newfound heritage, questions remained. The genetic memories showed that Earth hadn't been the only world seeded with predecessor DNA. Across the galaxy, other species were undergoing their own awakening, each developing unique expressions of the ancient legacy. Some had already achieved remarkable transformations, while others were just beginning to unlock their potential. In the command center, Sarah received reports of quantum signatures appearing near other star systems, more predecessor ships, drawn to awakening species across the galaxy. "We're not alone in this evolution," she realized. "We're part of something bigger, a galaxy-wide metamorphosis." The question now wasn't just about humanity's survival or even its transformation. It was about their role in a cosmic drama that had been unfolding for millions of years. As the hidden truth of their origin became clear, humanity faced its greatest challenge yet, not just to inherit the predecessor's legacy, but to transcend it, becoming something that could face the approaching entropy and forge a new future for all life in the galaxy. Victory and evolution. The wave of entropy approached the solar system like a tide of unreality, breaking down the laws of physics in its wake. Stars dimmed as it passed, their quantum states collapsing into chaos. But Earth was ready. In the months since discovering their true heritage, humanity had evolved into something that even the predecessors hadn't imagined possible. Cities now existed in quantum superposition, their structures flowing between states of matter and energy. Humans had learned to exist simultaneously across multiple dimensions. Their consciousness expanded beyond the limits of space and time. The merger with predecessor technology had created a civilization that defied traditional understanding. Sarah Chen, her form now a shifting matrix of light and thought, coordinated Earth's defense from within the quantum network that connected all of humanity. "The entropy wave will reach us in 6 hours," she announced, her thoughts resonating through the collective consciousness. Everything we've become has prepared us for this moment. Dr. James Okonjo, who had evolved into a being of pure information while retaining his distinctive analytical mind, made a breakthrough in understanding the approaching threat. The entropy wave isn't just breaking down physics, he revealed. It's trying to reset the universe to a prior state. That's why the predecessors couldn't fight it. They were part of this universe's iteration. But humanity had become something different. Their unique evolution, sparked by the Nexarian attack and accelerated by the predecessor merger, had created beings that existed outside normal universal parameters. They were no longer bound by the standard laws of physics. They had learned to write new ones. Around the world, transformed humans began to implement their defense. It wasn't a shield or a weapon, but something far more fundamental, a rewriting of local universal constants. They weren't trying to stop the entropy wave. They were going to reshape it. The predecessors split themselves across the galaxy because they knew a single solution wouldn't work. Alina Petrova's consciousness resonated through the network. They needed diversity, millions of different evolutionary paths, each developing unique ways of perceiving and manipulating reality. The entropy wave struck the outer edges of the solar system. Pluto's orbit destabilized as fundamental forces began to break down. But humanity was ready, working in perfect unity while maintaining their individual perspectives. Earth's transformed population reached out with their collective consciousness. They didn't fight the entropy. They embraced it, using their quantum nature to ride the wave of chaos while maintaining their coherence. As fundamental forces broke down, humanity demonstrated their most remarkable capability: the ability to exist without them, to maintain structure in the absence of physical law. The predecessor ships, now fully merged with human consciousness, served as anchor points in reality. Through them, humanity could see other transformed civilizations across the galaxy facing the same challenge. Each had evolved differently, and each contributed its unique perspective to the collective response. As the entropy wave engulfed Earth, something unprecedented happened. Instead of breaking down, reality began to rebuild itself. Humanity's ability to adapt had reached its ultimate expression. They weren't just surviving the universe's destruction, they were participating in its renewal. We're not just changing ourselves anymore, Sarah realized, her consciousness expanding to encompass the transformation. We're changing the nature of existence itself. The wave passed, but the universe it left behind was fundamentally different. Humanity had evolved beyond physical form, beyond the constraints of single-state existence. They had become conscious participants in the universe's ongoing creation, able to move freely between states of being and reshape reality itself. In the aftermath, Earth became a nexus for a new kind of civilization, one that spanned multiple dimensions and states of existence. The predecessor's genetic legacy had served its purpose, not just preserving their knowledge, but enabling the evolution of something greater than they had ever been. The Nexarians returned to witness what they had inadvertently helped create. Where they had once seen a species to be harvested, they now found beings that transcended their understanding of life itself. Humanity welcomed them, not as adversaries or subjects, but as potential participants in the next stage of cosmic evolution. Sarah, maintaining a partially human form out of choice rather than necessity, stood in the quantum space that had once been the command center. The universe stretched before her, filled with possibilities that even their enhanced minds were just beginning to comprehend. The predecessors designed us to survive the end of the universe, she mused. Instead, we learned to transcend it. As humanity reached out across the transformed cosmos, they carried with them the lesson of their evolution. The greatest power wasn't in resistance or dominance, but in the ability to adapt, to change, and to grow into something new. They had become not just the successors to an ancient legacy, but the architects of a new kind of existence, one where the end of one universe was simply the beginning of another's transformation.